Good morning and welcome to Lattes and Leaders with Dr. Brad Johnson, best-selling author and accomplished public speaker specializing in education and educational leadership. I am your co-host, Jeremy Johnson, organizational psychology consultant specializing in career coaching, training, and development. Meet us here each week to discuss topics in education and leadership and meet with some of the top education talent and thought partners from across the globe. So grab your latte, sit back, and enjoy a relaxed conversation that will leave you informed and encouraged. Good morning and welcome to Lattes and Leaders with Dr. Brad Johnson. This morning we have a very special guest. We have with us Miss Cindy Tierney. How are you doing today?
I'm great. Happy to be here. Thank you.
Hey, Sydney. Yeah, so glad to have you on. Looking forward to chatting with you. How's the weather out there in Texas?
It's hot. It's always hot this time of year.
Why don't we get started this morning? Can you tell us a little bit about your journey so far?
Sure. I'm about to begin my 29th year in education. I have done a wide range of things. I've, of course, taught in the classroom, and I've been a literacy coordinator on a campus. I have managed a Gear Up grant for grades 7 through 12. I've spent 10 years as a campus principal, and that was absolutely my most favorite job ever. And then I was director of curriculum and instruction at the middle school level. And currently I am the executive director for student services and federal programs in Lufkin ISD. Personally, I have a couple of kiddos who are now adults. I have Kayla, who's 29, and Kyle, who will be 25 on Friday. And I'm happily married to my husband of 31 years. So
Great.
That's great. Yeah, I'm glad you said happily married to your husband. You never know. They're like, are you in love and are you happily married and is it to the same person?
31 years with the same person.
That's awesome. So you're basically Texas born and that's where you've spent your career, I guess. So
That
that's
is where
awesome.
this is my 25th year in Lufkin ISD. I'm not originally from Lufkin. I'm from, a smaller town, New London, Texas, which is about an hour and a half away. So population 942.
What's your favorite part of Texas?
The, the only part I've ever lived in is East Texas. So of course that's my favorite.
Okay.
I love the big tall pine trees and I love the heat. We do get some rain, so that's good too. Definitely the eastern part of Texas.
I like that you said principal was your favorite part because I think sometimes, even as teachers, they always see the principal as, oh, you're well paid. And so, your job is easy. And, it's hard for someone that hasn't been in that role to understand that it's a tough role. I always say it's probably the loneliest role in education because you're trying to balance between everything that the district's sending down to you or demanding of you and trying to balance that with your staff. And so, it's great that, you felt at home there and that was probably your best experience. So I'm sure that your teachers recognized that and felt that way too. So that's
Well,
an interesting take or a
well,
great
thank
take.
you. Thank you. So, when I was principal, I spent, of course, 10 years, but 9 of those I didn't have an assistant principal. So I literally, had lots of opportunities to problem solve and work with teachers and families and support students in their growth academically and behaviorally and with social emotional learning and all the things. So I felt like I wore a lot of hats, but it also gave me great experiences with a lot of our stakeholders.
Speaking of all the different stakeholders that you built relationships with, can you speak for a second on the importance of building a community in schools?
Oh my goodness. Um, you know, the community piece, the relationships that you build, that starts even before the first day of school. That starts with every email that you send out. That starts with
Mm,
every phone call that you make. Um, it's critical that we build those relationships while times are good, because when times get hard and we don't have those relationships and that trust in place, it's far more difficult to build them at that point. So we want to make sure we front load some intentional effort in building those relationships, because we don't know what the future may hold, and we want our community to have trust in us and to know that we have the kids' best interest at heart.
That's so true. And I like that point, building those relationships and on the front end and during the good times kind of builds that, we call it trust capital, with
Mm-hmm.
them so that when times aren't so great or things are going on. But yeah, we hear that a lot. And I think that's such an important point that we get so focused in the educational realm within the school that we often forget the community piece and the parent piece, and how important that it really is to how well and effective that the school runs and is supported in the community. If you don't do that, we see the results now of politicians fighting against us, and people always, they listen to the negative more than the positive, I'll put it that way. And so
Certainly.
I think like you said, it's so important to build that relationship early and build it positively so that you can endure those tough times. That's just such an important piece. Thank you for sharing that.
Well, and I always felt like it was important for me to know the name of every kid. I wanted to know where
mhm,
they were academically. I wanted to know where their scores were. I had lots of conversations with our kids about getting to the next level, whatever level that was. I wanted them to know that I believed in them, and we had the help of their teachers, and we were going to grow and we were going to make that progress, and they were going to do well. So we just wanted to do better tomorrow than we did today. And I,
yeah.
was
Mhm,
passionate about knowing my kids inside and out.
yeah. Yeah, I love that mindset. So, can you tell us a little bit about your personal qualities that you think have made the biggest impact on your leadership?
I think probably my passion
Mhm,
for building our world and making it better today than it was yesterday. And, in my current position, I have the opportunity to work with campus leaders and make sure they have the skills and the knowledge that they need in order to do an effective job in their roles. Um, you know, I also do lots of campus visits and coach campus leaders and help them with situations that may be specific to their campuses. My passion also overflows into my personal life. In order to make our world a better place, my husband and I, about 12 years ago, started an initiative where, we show up on a school campus on one Saturday a month, and we provide almost 500 meals
oh,
that are
wow.
free to the community. And I have really seen, I talked about the relationships, but when those families see that my family is willing, that I have lots of volunteers that also show up to provide meals to the community. They see that I'm invested and I care, and I have seen that time and time again pay off when things are hard, when we have that situation with that student, when we have that situation with the family. I think they know that I care about them and their world. And that has kind of laid the foundation for an easier answer in so many ways. So I'm passionate about kids and just making it better. I want to leave a legacy that just says it's better because I was here.
So, what are some of the biggest challenges that you've faced in your leadership roles?
I think right now in today's world, um, recovering from the pandemic has been
Mhm.
huge. You know, that has left lasting results and implications that we're still seeing, even though we're post pandemic, but learning loss, mental
Mhm.
health, teacher shortages. I mean, it's covered almost every aspect of public education. And, you know, to make it better, we've got to keep seeking out options to help and better support our teachers and our students and our families. And we've got to continue to find ways to make it better. And we're not there yet. It's a struggle. We don't have all the answers, but we've got to keep looking for the answers to help and
Mhm.
provide some relief. So
Yeah, you're so right. And even though we are a couple of years removed, I guess, in a way, or maybe in some ways not that long, but you're right. That really threw us for a loop, especially in education, because, education, I always describe it as this giant ship that is hard to navigate, and you sure can't change direction easy, and we really
right,
had to, within just, the blink of an eye, we had to change almost everything. And, you know, one of the things I talk about is not just the learning loss, but it's the socialization and everything that the students missed. And when you think about, you have students now in third or fourth grade that weren't in school the first year or two, they were at home online. And, that's just a very different environment. And it's hard for them to learn things like routines and expectations and, all the things that come from being present in the classroom that helps them learn how to be a better student. And, so we're struggling with all those dynamics. And some of them we don't even recognize or realize are the issues, but they are because they were just, it's something in the past that we didn't even give a second thought to.
certainly one huge thing that we're seeing is a lack of problem solving skills. When conflicts arise, our kids don't always know how to work through that. So they don't necessarily make the best choices from time to time. So we're working to build those skills through our counselors and our assistant principals and, our campus on our campuses, even in the classrooms. So that's been a struggle. One thing, that I have learned is I led a couple of different campuses pre-pandemic and post-pandemic. Post-pandemic, it's a different ballgame. I didn't experience exactly what our leaders are facing now. So it's important that I spend time on campuses to kind of witness, the reality of what's going on and provide support along the way as well.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And, I would encourage district level leaders to spend a little bit more time in the schools because of that. Like you said, because a lot of them weren't in the schools at all during that time. So, yeah, there are challenges and stuff that they, are facing and through this that again you may not be aware of until you go into the schools and interact and listen to them and talk to them and get that feedback from them, which I think, is so important to do. Because the leaders there, it's like the teacher's the leader in the classroom, and the principal and the assistant principals, they're the leader of that ship, that school, and so it's so important to get that information, that feedback from them, and that input from them.
Certainly.
So, can you tell us about maybe a teacher you had or an educator, administrator you've worked alongside that has made the biggest impact on your development?
Um, Growing up, I mentioned I am from a very small town, and I had a tremendous respect for all of my teachers, and they invested in me just tremendously. I also had a unique perspective because my mother taught first grade in my elementary school. So I got to see a lot of the behind the scenes from, how teachers work to support their kids, how they supported each other, and how they did everything that they could to help in times of hardship, whether it was a death in the family or, a spouse that had lost a job, whatever it was, they were a strong team that supported each other. And I always had a tremendous respect for how they worked and the relationships that they had. And I always knew growing up that was the school family that I wanted. Um, After college, I had the opportunity. I spent my first 2 years as a classroom teacher on that very campus. So not only did that group of teachers support me as a child, they also supported me throughout my first couple of years and provided assistance and guidance along the way as I, went through some uncharted waters before. So, all of them, just kind of built a network around me and just helped me grow and learn and become who I am today. And when I think about maybe a mentor or another leader that supported me, lots of names also come to mind. Probably my number one, definitely my number one, is my good friend, Kathy Jost. Kathy was my principal in my first leadership position in this district. And then she and I have worked side by side. We were principals together. We moved into my current building as executive directors together. She was over teaching and learning, and of course, I'm in a different area, but we have worked side by side for over 2 decades. And she has been a tremendous blessing to me. She has recently retired, so I'm going to miss her tremendously. But she and I are really good friends, and we will continue to stay in touch. And she is my go-to person when I need advice or when I need just a little boost. And she is also my biggest cheerleader. So she's been a blessing in my life.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And I like that. And, one of the things I emphasize to leaders all the time is never underestimate the power of a mentor. And, it doesn't have to be, it can be even more of of a personal connection with them. She was your principal at first, but then y'all became more colleagues and friends than anything, but still having that mentoring aspect to it. It's so important because I think it's interesting. We train and raise children and teach them and educate them, and then as adults we are just left to figure out life a lot of ways. And so it's like, why not keep some type of mentors close to you that you can bounce ideas off of, and that understand what you're going through, so you don't feel like that you're going through it alone. That's a great perspective. And I think it's fortunate for all of us when we have some, at least one person, if not more, like that in our life.
Yeah. And I think we have to be intentional about building that network. And we want people in that network that don't necessarily look like us or maybe even have the same beliefs as us. And we get a lot of that network within our district. But on the other hand, we need a broader perspective oftentimes at the state level and even the national level, because whatever issue we're facing, somebody out there is facing it too. And they may be addressing whatever the issue is in a very different way with different insight. And the greater we grow our network, the more prepared we are to make the best decision with whatever we're facing.
Yeah, yeah. So we've heard that from a couple of different leaders, the importance of having a diverse perspective on issues, because pretty much everybody is they're teaching or administrating a diverse population. So that's really important. And I'm glad that you said that. I feel like more people in education need to hear that. So that's great.
One way that I have worked to build my network is through our state organization for principals, um, TEPSA, Texas Elementary Principals and Supervisors Association. I just finished my second term as state president for that organization, and that has allowed me to grow a lot of relationships across our wonderful state. People in West Texas don't always do things like people in East Texas, and we have the same, you know, rules and regulations and laws and all that, but things look a little bit different across the great state.
Hmm.
So it's really expanded my network, and it's been a blessing to me.
Okay.
Well, and one of the things I like to share with administrators, and they often don't even think about this when we talk about diversity, we can even look at it as a generational thing. Because when you're new to leadership, I'm like, encouraging them to find a veteran that has the experience and, been through a lot of what they'll face so that they have that type of mentor. But I think as we get older too, that it's important to find, I call it a generational mentor, and that's someone younger than you because they're going to be able to articulate to you things from the new generations. Like I'm Gen X, so I look to millennials or Gen Z, like Jeremy to help me understand the new generations and what are their motivations and what are they looking for and what drives them. And as a leader, that's important to stay connected in that way to the new generations coming up, or man, you're kind of just out of touch, I guess, in a lot of ways. So when we think of it from that perspective, everybody has an area in which they can improve in that for sure.
Certainly. And, I think about it as a campus principal. I always found it so fascinating that, when you teamed teachers up together and partnered them and had them in the same grade level or in the same content area, your experienced teachers that were mentoring the younger teachers learned as much or more from the younger teachers that were fresh out of college that had all the insight on maybe some new and innovative practices or new technology and different things. And then the more experienced teachers had the classroom experience and the knowledge and that they could share. So it was such a great partnership. But Brad, you are right onto something with leaders as well. We need that fresh perspective so that we don't get in that rut and find ourselves not being able to relate to other generations as well. So,
Absolutely, yeah.
So earlier you mentioned your passion is one of your strengths. So how do you keep that passion going when times get tough?
you know, for me, I'm probably more of an introvert than an extrovert.
Mhm.
So it's important that I take time for myself just to decompress and maybe recalibrate my expectations and what's going on and my priorities. When we are all so busy and when we have so many balls in the air, when we focus on the balls and not what our priority is, sometimes we get lost in the shuffle and we lose focus on what is our greatest priority. So for me, it's important that I schedule that time, maybe on the weekend, maybe 10 minutes every evening, to just really sit down and recalibrate and think about what's my number one tomorrow? What was my number one today? Does that align with what my expectations are and what my goals are? Did I spend too much time chasing down this, you know, I don't even know a good word for that.
Yeah, you
um,
like chasing the fires, right? Yeah, if you're always
yeah,
chasing them, you never get the important things done, right?
right. It's so important that we keep that first thing as our biggest priority. And there will always be distractions, that we can't let the distractions dictate our day. We've got to keep our eye on the prize.
Yeah, that's very true. That is very true. So when you're looking to, practice some of the mindfulness that that you talked about, or decompress, de-stress, do you have any specific hobbies or activities that you go to?
I guess my biggest thing is volunteering
Mhm.
and getting out and doing something to help somebody else. But then there are other simple things, like I get a massage every month.
Yeah.
Oh,
That
no,
helps
that's
too.
great. Yeah, no, that's definitely not something to be undersold for sure.
Yeah,
Mhm.
but when I get out in the community and see different things, it builds my passion for this is where we need to go and this is how I need to help.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. Love that.
Yeah, that's so you keep your passion by staying passionate. So
It
that's a
just recharges
good
my batteries.
that's right. Yeah, and it
Mm.
does for some people, like you said.
Hmm.
But I agree with you. Like, just because people are in the public eye doesn't mean that they're necessarily extroverts, and so
Yeah.
sometimes that zaps all your energy, like you said, where you have to just take that time alone to kind of, decompress and recharge, and so you can get back out in that mix. I think we just have one tough question left for you, and that is because this is called Lattes and Leaders. What is your hot beverage of choice? Is it coffee, lattes, cappuccinos, none of the above?
I'm so boring with this answer. I like my coffee just strong and black.
No, that's a
I
good
used to
answer.
do, yeah, I used to do a lot of the creamers and sweeteners and all that, but I just have kind of phased myself out of that, and I really prefer it just strong and black nowadays.
Yeah.
I was bad about early on. Coffee with just, yeah, loaded with cream and sugar. And here in Georgia, we call that coffee pie. I've gotten cut back to just, and I don't drink a lot, but with just a little bit of the creamer in it, I still have to have that. I can't do just the straight coffee.
Yeah. So I started drinking coffee from a very young age. One of the treats at the grandparents' house was coffee with a lot of milk and just a little tiny drop of coffee.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, that's a good memory to have, though, to flash back to that.
No
That's
doubt.
cool. Yeah, that's wonderful. Well,
So,
man, I appreciate you being on. Loved your experiences, some great nuggets. And I think Jeremy usually asks, I'll just go ahead since I'm already talking, but is there some nugget that you want to leave with leaders or new leaders or even veteran leaders or even to teachers, like just a word of encouragement that you would like to share?
um, I think just keep on keeping on. Always keep kids on the forefront of every decision,
Mhm.
whether you're in the classroom, whether you're a building leader or a district leader. Always keep the needs of the kids first and foremost. I have always been able to defend any decision that I ever made when it was made with the best interest of the kids in mind.
Mm.
Um, if you make the decisions with what's best for kids, you never go wrong. And even when somebody doesn't agree with that necessarily, or when they don't agree with a decision that you made, when you can defend it in the best interest of kids, it's real hard for them to argue with.
Yeah.
So that would be my number one advice always.
It sounds like you have a lot of passion, and I'm sure that your staff and the kids appreciate it. And it sounds like you're doing a lot of really good work. So, congratulations on all that you've accomplished. And we look forward to hearing back from you and seeing what other cool stuff you've been up to.
Okay.
And
It's
good luck
great to
going. Are
visit
you
with
going
y'all.
into year 29, did you say?
I'm going into 29. Yes,
All
sir.
right. All
Mhm.
right.
Oh, great.
Well, I hope you have your best year yet.
Thank you so much. It's been a great pleasure to visit with y'all today.
Thank you. Us too. Thank you so much.
This has been Lattes and Leaders with Dr. Brad Johnson. We hope that you leave today feeling informed and inspired. For more educational content, be sure to add this podcast to your list and follow Dr. Johnson on any and all social media platforms. For more information on Dr. Johnson, Jeremy Johnson, and special guests, check out drbradjohnson.com. That is DOCTOR, bradjohnson.com. Hope to have you back soon.